What is going on, Queen City Reefers? Welcome to another episode here with Queen City Reefs and more. Thank you so much for tuning in. As promised, today we're going to be talking about ammonium bicarbonate. I've incorporated ammonium bicarbonate into this tank, the frag tank, and the LPS tank. This video is going to cover what I do, how I do it, and what I've actually seen a difference in. Right here behind me is my Planet Aquarium's Mega Matrix 310 gallon. This is the main display. This is how it all started here in North Carolina. Now, for those that don't know, my name is Dennis. I originally moved here from Texas back in 2017. We've been here since 2017, and I want to say around that time, soon after moving over here, we set up this tank. Now, there's a whole backstory to it, and you'd have to go all the way back to videos from 2-3 years ago to kind of catch up as to, you know, how this tank came along and so on and so forth. But long story short, I had a Marineland 300 Deep Dimension, had a leak. They ended up covering the cost of damage and everything that leak cost, and they covered it with a check. So then I honestly, I contemplated at that time if coming back. So then I had sold quite a few things, and then, you know, I was like, oh, there's a perfect time to kind of call it quits. But I didn't even last, not even 6 months, that I decided to just pull the plug on this Planet Aquarium. So this tank has been set up for quite a few years, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all. You know, this tank should be outgrown. This tank should have large colonies of everything in here, but because of my impatience, my stubbornness, I was one of those, or have been one of those, that wants to try everything and anything, you know, and it took me some time to finally realize that it doesn't work that way, that there is no silver bullet that is just gonna make everything just grow, right? And so see this as a prime example, as things don't happen fast. I mean, come on, we are trying to literally keep corals and fish that come from all around the world in the oceans in the middle of wherever you're at. In my case, in the middle of North Carolina, where we have hot and cold weather, and we do our best to try to maintain a constant temperature here to match what the ocean is. So for whoever tells you that, you know, hey, it's easy, and this is another subject we're gonna talk about. You know, I'm not gonna go too much into it now because I don't wanna make this video longer than it needs to be. But there's definitely something that we gotta talk about, and that is, you know, is reef keeping easy? And the reality, it's not. I don't know how I feel about some of these content creators, especially the ones that have to do with big companies, where they wanna promote reef keeping being easy. Reef keeping, you know, you can start it with a 20-gallon aquarium, so on and so forth. While it might be, in the beginning, it really is not. I mean, literally, if you haven't been to reefing, ask anybody that is not in reefing. Ask them, are they willing to keep an aquarium, a reef tank aquarium, and ask them and tell them, you know, the very basics of what they have to keep up with: water changes, mixing salt, testing parameters, so on and so forth. And you're not even going to get halfway through the list of things that you got to do, and you're going to hear them say, no, that's not for me. So is reef keeping for everybody? No, it's not. That's one thing to keep in mind. It's that it's not for everyone. Now, you really have to be passionate, obsessed, in love with this hobby in order to do everything that, if you're watching this video, most likely you are, and you are so passionate about this hobby here that you're willing to do it all, right? Because that's what passion is. So same goes for people that are passionate about rebuilding cars, you know, old school cars, and making them, you know, brand spanking new again. Painting, you know, hiking, you know, whatever the case may be, and they buy all these hiking boots, or golfing and all the nice clubs and all that stuff. There's something for everyone, and so reef keeping is not for everyone. If you're interested, definitely do your research, definitely find out, but know that you got to be passionate and a little bit of crazy too, to really want to be into keeping such sensitive animals. I mean, these are literally sensitive animals that we're trying to keep in our homes. And so no, it's not easy. Now, as I've said before, you know, once you learn, once you do it many times, you get used to it, you know, it becomes muscle memory, and it becomes very enjoyable. And so at that point, then, you know, if you get to that point, then absolutely stay with us. But yeah, so this is where the tank is at now after so many years, and you'll see, you know, I'll bring you close to some of these corals here in a minute, but you can see, you'll see that there is large colonies of some of these corals, but there are several small colonies, whether they're new, whether I've had them and they just haven't done nothing in so long. You know, there's a little bit of everything here, to be honest. Now, from that distance right there, you might not see a lot of corals, but there is a lot of frags here that when they grow out, I'm gonna have to make sure to keep them cut and everything in order to make sure that they don't touch in coral warfare, which I don't know how possible that's gonna be, but I'm gonna try to make it as possible as possible. Dosing ammonium carbonate. For those that don't know, ammonium carbonate is also known as baker's ammonia, and it is used as a leveling agent in baking, a fertilizer, and in production of plastics and dyes. When you open this bag, it smells like nothing but ammonia. And so when I was mixing it with RODI water, just that strong whiff. Like, have you ever been in someone's home that has a lot of cats, and I guess maybe their cats spray everywhere, and then it starts, after a while, it starts smelling like ammonia because of the cat urine? Well, that's exactly what this smells like when you're mixing it with RODI. I got the mixture from Mike Paletta. So for those that are familiar with Mike Paletta, he started doing this, and Sanjay, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he also does it and they swear by it. So I started doing it here myself, and I will tell you that overall I have seen very positive results. But there's one caveat to that, and it is you have to dose precisely, because I think that I overdid it, I overshot it. I had a plan of dosing a quarter of what Mike Paletta doses, because if you think of it, you got to keep in mind that Mike Paletta's tank is full of coral and mine is not. So I started at a quarter, but then a week later I started half, and then a week later I started at 3/4 of what he doses. And so my corals did start sort of browning out, and therefore I knew the only thing that I had really been doing different was the ammonium bicarbonate. So it's definitely something you got to be careful with, and you got to, inspect your corals on a daily basis, especially for the first month or so. And I'll tell you that right now that I ended up having to bring it back to a quarter of what Mike Paletta's recipe is. And I'm gonna keep it there until these corals grow. I mean, they've been doing fine without it. I will tell you that I've seen a bigger difference in color, polyp extension, and even when I frag. This is the one that I've actually seen the biggest difference in. When I fragged my Walt Disney, that has not done anything in quite some time, I fragged it because I wanted to kind of encourage growth. So I fragged it and sold that frag to a local person here by me. And I kid you not, within a week and a half or so, you could already start seeing that white skeleton was no longer white. It was actually already turning into the Walt Disney color with the nubs coming out. And then maybe half a week later, you started seeing like 3 or 4 nubs come out of that one little area that had been cut. And so then I cut another coral, my Setosa manipura here, and same thing, within a week, that white spot was already looking very colored. And so at that point, that's the number one difference that I saw, was that when corals are being fragged or anything like that, they grow a lot faster. Now, I haven't cut it. I have seen a difference, but I haven't seen, like, after it healed and after it created the new little branches, I haven't seen those branches grow at the same rate that they grew from the cut to those branches. You would think that they'd be double the size by now, but that wasn't the case. So right now, the only difference I've seen is that when you do cut, they heal a lot faster. You will notice, when I bring you closer in a minute, you will notice that there's a lot of dead coral. And so this happened during the time of the dosing more than what I should have been dosing of ammonium, and a big outbreak in cyanobacteria. So for those that have been following this channel along, you'll know that for the last few months I've been dealing with cyano, and I got it to go away. But I can tell you that I know what's causing it to come back is dosing amino acids. So I've noticed that every time that I've dosed, that I've gotten rid of a cyanobacteria in the past, every time I start dosing amino acids again, I've noticed that the cyano comes back. And so it was all over the rocks. It was already covering corals. It was suffocating some corals. So some of those corals died from the suffocation of cyano. Now, I don't know what it would do to mix everything up, so I stopped dosing ammonium bicarbonate, and then I put in the recommended amount of ChemiClean in order to get rid of the cyano. So as you can see now, there's no purple anywhere, no red cyano or anything like that. All the rock is clean and everything. And so I'm almost tempted to dose of amino acids just to prove the fact that it is the amino acids that brings it back. And the one that has, which I hate to say this because I think very highly of them, is Julian Sprung's Acro Power. That is the one that has always caused my cyanobacteria to come back. So I don't know what that's about, but definitely something to put to the test right now that everything's clear, right? So it may be that I was just dosing too much and should have dialed it back. You definitely don't learn from me, because as you can see, this tank should be overgrown already. Aside from the things that I just mentioned from dosing ammonium bicarbonate, I haven't really seen any other difference. The fish haven't suffered. One of the biggest issues, one of the biggest concerns I had was really with the fish. I thought that maybe by dosing ammonium bicarbonate that I could possibly maybe poison them, or to the very least stress them out or something like that. But they haven't skipped a beat. They've ate like they always do. They're always in front of the glass when they see me with a cup of frozen foods or with the flakes or the pellets. Now, again, I think that this stuff is dangerous if you overdose it. It is very important that you just keep track of what you're dosing, how, you know, when you're dosing it, how much you're dosing, and do not overdose. People will ask, what do you prefer, fish or corals? And I've always said fish. In the past, I've said fish, but I love corals now so much that it's a tie. I can't choose one or the other, to be honest. So what does ammonium bicarbonate do? Well, according to my research, in reef tanks, they're used to provide a nitrogen source to the corals as food, pretty much. It's particularly used in low nutrient systems. Ammonium bicarbonate is the way to provide a nitrogen source for your corals, because according to the research I've done, corals absorb ammonium bicarbonate way better than they do nitrates. New research and new experiments that people have done, they've discovered that ammonium bicarbonate is the best nitrogen source that you can give your corals, and they will absorb it a lot better than they will nitrates. Therefore, I think, if anything, it has something to do with that and bacteria that corals feed on. If you think about it, when you first launch a new tank, which I got to show you here in the back here in a minute. When you first launch a new tank to start cycling it, you dose ammonia and then you dose the bacteria. And so then you're feeding that bacteria the ammonia. So I'm thinking that in some sort of way, the ammonium bicarbonate is feeding the bacteria that then is also then feeding the corals. And so there's something to it, especially with what I saw. Now, I'm going to put B-roll here of my LPS tank. That is the tank that has experienced the most benefit from this ammonium dosing. As you can see right here, with this clip right here, you'll start seeing, and maybe we'll scroll over here in a minute to the torches, but the torches are the biggest significant ones, and the Goniopora, the most significant ones that show a lot of polyp, a lot of flesh. And I'm going to be honest, like when it came to torches, the torches that I would buy, I would sell immediately, because when I would try to transfer them to my LPS tank, for whatever reason, they wouldn't do well. They would do well in my frag tank, but they wouldn't do well in my LPS tank. Now, yes, there's something else going on, especially when you see those differences, but I couldn't figure it out. I would do my water changes on a weekly basis. I would do, I have a tester connected there so that they can test my alkalinity, and then I would test every other week calcium and magnesium. And none of those ever showed any signs of distress or anything like that. So I couldn't figure it out. But I haven't had to now that I've been dosing ammonium bicarbonate. Again, on the clip here, you're seeing that these corals are thriving in this environment. And all I'm doing is I'm barely dosing any alkalinity supplements, because the alkalinity doesn't seem to actually be consumed that fast. And so therefore I'm only like dosing once a week or something like that. And I think the other reason why is because my pH there doesn't get any higher than 7.8. I can't get it to go over 7.8. I don't know why. It is in the living area where most of the time we spend time there. So the corals are doing great. As you can see, I don't see any reason for me to panic and try to elevate that pH. Would I like higher pH? Yes. But do I want to do something that's going to cause me to have to spend more money in order to keep that pH high? No. Now with the SPS tank, I feel that high pH does contribute to a healthier SPS, and therefore here I do make an effort to keep that pH higher. But that's as much as I can tell you from my research and from what I understand. Like, if you want to learn more about ammonium bicarbonate, definitely go research it. Definitely listen to to the talk that Mike Paletta did on it, and I believe he also wrote something on Reef Builders about it, or somewhere, I can't remember where, maybe one of the magazines. You definitely want to educate yourself before just jumping the gun and trying to do this. I am going to let you know what I do, the amount that I dose, how I mix it and everything, so that you have that now, but do it at your own risk, because it can be devastating if overdosed. All right, so I'm going to bring my phone here so that I could tell you exactly what it is that I'm doing. For dosing ammonium bicarbonate, I mix, and this is based off what Mike Paletta does. I mix 20 grams of ammonium bicarbonate for every liter of RODI water. So 20 grams for every liter of RODI water is what I mix. And for this tank behind me, I've actually mixed a whole gallon of it. And so that way it will last me over a year when dosing it. Pretty much what you're doing for the whole gallon, you're doing 80 grams of this, and it's a powdery, white powdered substance here that when you open it, it smells like ammonia. So once you have your 20 grams per liter of RODI water, what Mike Paletta said he was doing, he was dosing 20 milliliters per day for his 600 gallon tank. This is a 310 gallon. 350 is what with the water displacement and the sump being 75 gallons, so on and so forth, I mark it down to 350. So from what he said, 20 milliliters per day for 600 gallons, I made an estimate that this is going to be 350 gallons. I started with a quarter of what he is doing, and a quarter being 2.5 milliliters a day. Remember earlier I mentioned that I think I went too fast on moving up. So a week later, because everything looked good, I moved to 5 milliliters. That's half of what he doses. And then I went to 7.5, which is 75% of what he doses. And eventually I was supposed to go to 12 milliliters a day to match what he's doing. But one thing I failed to realize, and I'm glad I realized it before it was too devastating, is that his tank is full of coral. So I'm gonna keep it at 2.5 milliliters per day until these corals grow out, and then maybe I'll move it to 3 and then 3.5. Honestly, there's no rush. The tank has been doing okay before dosing ammonium bicarbonate. So this is just a way to feed your corals more effectively and hopefully give you a healthier reef tank. But by no means am I saying that you need this in order to make your coral. I mean, we've seen plenty of tanks that don't do this and they're doing perfectly fine. So mine is my inconsistencies, to be honest. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm gonna bring you up close real quick before I end this video. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or anything particular you want me to cover when it comes to ammonium bicarbonate or anything else, please let me know. Next video that will be coming in the next week or so is gonna be all about connecting the Atlas and the Helix to the 0 to 10 volt for the Neptune Systems Apex system. I'm gonna go, I've already actually connected the Atlas, and I didn't get to do a video about that, but the Helix are not too different. So I'm gonna bring you step by step on the Helix, and then I'll bring you to what I did with the Atlas so that you could just apply what we learned from the Helix to the Atlas and then into the Apex system. And video after that is going to be about this new tank right here behind me. So let me give you a quick sneak peek so you can see what's going on. And here you have it. We have a new 25 gallon Innovative Marine Lagoon style tank with a JBJ stand. So the stand didn't come with the tank itself. I ended up having to buy the stand separately, but as you can see, it fit like a glove, or looser, but I like it. So this is not meant to add on to what the tanks that I have. So for those that have been following me will know that that tank is what has been in that corner where the Innovative Marine is at now. So once this is ready for new corals, I'm gonna transfer everything that is in the cube tank, the mangrove tank, and put it all in here. And as you can see, that area right there will be for the mangrove. There will be a Kessel light or Kessel-like light that will hang down to light up the mangrove. And then I'll have a tuna blue one that will light up the corals and the anemone that's in there. So, or that will be in there. And here you have it, a close-up of the Mega Matrix by Planet Aquariums. These mushrooms, these are the green hairy Australian mushrooms, have gone bonkers in this area right here. And they have a foot like an anemone does that attaches to the rock, and man is it hard to detach. So I do have to do something about it because it's already starting to smother that coral and eventually my Walt Disney. So definitely got to do something about that. little colony of the green goblin Anacropora, little colony of the tub stellata by Jason Fox. This right here is the Walt Disney I was talking to you about a minute ago. So I had literally, picture this, cut that in half, and then you had this nub grow that way, those nubs grow that way. I mean, I was very impressed on how quickly that healed up and then started throwing out branches. So I'm excited to, you know, do this more long term and make sure that the tank is more stable, because it's truly a matter of a balance of everything, right? You're not just balancing one thing, you're balancing parameters, nutrients, whatever it is that you're dosing, making sure it's not too much, making sure it's just enough, you know, whatever the case may be. And so it's a tough one. But like I said before, you know, you have to be passionate, you have to be in love, and you have to be crazy to want to do this, right? So if you are all those things, all of the above, then definitely this hobby is for you.